Russia prepares for an expected U.S. nuclear attack in response to the Obama administration's Ukrainian coup that replaced the democratically elected pro-Russian president of Russia's neighboring country by a regime that is seeking to join NATO and become a base for U.S. nuclear missiles. Russia is girding for America's expected attack. Berko News, an organization of journalists based in Crimea, headlined on 22 June 2014, "Why Island Russia Preparing for the Nuclear War?" and reported, from the middle of May to early June 2014, the Russian Federation i.e., Russia undertook 2 large command staff exercises testing the realization of a local nuclear attack. According to military experts, there were never such dense and extensive testing scenarios of nuclear war even in the Soviet Union. The 12th General Directorate of the Ministry of Defense, which is the most secret department, was involved in the exercises. Previously, the present reporter had headlined, "Why Ukraine's Civil War is of Global Historical Importance," and explained the connection between America's coup in Ukraine in February 2014 and America's restart of the anti-Soviet Cold War. The U.S. coup in Ukraine cannot be understood outside the context of that country's being able and willing now to allow the U.S. to place nuclear missiles right next door to Russia, close enough for a first strike against Moscow to prevent any retaliation by Russia. Our missiles would destroy Russia within 10 minutes of launch, too short a time window for Russia to be able to respond. Another recent report was headlined, "Indications that the U.S. is planning a nuclear attack against Russia," and it described NATO military exercises and anti-Russian propaganda to prepare for a U.S.-led nuclear attack against Russia. In other words, this new Cold War is actually preparation for a nuclear war that is being not just planned but now actually being practiced in military exercises. One cannot understand U.S. President Barack Obama's propaganda campaign against Russia if one does not understand what it is heading towards. Yet another article was headlined, "How and Why the U.S. Has Restarted the Cold War: The Backstory That Precipitated Ukraine's Civil War," and it explained in even more depth the reason why Obama has been doing this. This reporter has also explained why all U.S. news media with very few exceptions have refused to publicize these unquestionable realities. U.S. media have refused to publish any of those news reports that place these current events into historical context. For example, one of my news reports was titled "Videos Americans Didn't Get to See on Our Nightly News," and it opened, "While the U.S. media obsessed with the Iraq War, that we created 11 years ago and can't stop, and that we aren't really causing right now, they're covering up our current invasion overseen by our CIA and former Blackwater mercenaries, which Obama and more than $5 billion of U.S. taxpayer money started in February, and which has been reported only via amateur videos uploaded to YouTube and linked to by Pravda and other Russian propaganda. So, here's what U.S. news media don't want us to see, because it's only Russian propaganda. It's what we're doing through our own Ukrainian agents, our heroes of Maidan, right now. I shall continue trying to get the U.S. media, both its major news media and the smaller circulation alternative news media, to report to the American people what Obama is doing to Ukraine, and why. If this matter does not become a major issue during the upcoming Democratic presidential primaries, which will start next year, then there will be no way to avert nuclear war, because Hillary Clinton shares Obama's plan 100%, and was part of its operation, while she was U.S. Secretary of State, and no Republican U.S. presidential nominee will oppose an operation to win a nuclear war. Any contender in Republican Party presidential primaries who would oppose it wouldn't stand a chance to win that party's presidential nomination, because being strong on defense is the biggest rallying cry to that party's voters, the people who actually vote in Republican Party primaries and so determine its nominee. Consequently, the available time window for the U.S. press to change its tack on this, and to start informing the American public on this matter, that they've been hiding from the public, will soon become closed. The nonviolent revolution begins July 5th. Celebrate the 4th like it's the last one ever. Then, Saturday and Sunday, you stay home. No gas station, no supermarket, no spending. None. Corporations are designed to make money off us. the government became an Inc. in 1871. To abolish the Act of 1871 where democracy was born, we the people, do want a democratic republic of 1776. Not a democracy from 1871 from this point forward. We all must push for the abolishing of the corporation, which is literally a monopoly. July 5 Saturday, July 6 Sunday. Since 1871 the United States President and the United States Congress has been playing politics under a different set of rules and policies. The American people do not know that there are two constitutions in the United States. The first penned by the leaders of the newly independent states of the United States in 1776. On July 4, 1776, the people claimed their independence from Britain and Democratic Republic was born. And for 95 years the United States people were free and independent. That freedom ended in 1871, when the original Constitution for the United States for America was changed to the Constitution of the United States of America. The Congress realized that the country was in dire financial straits, so they made a financial deal with the devil international bankers in those days, the Rothschilds of London, thereby incurring a debt to said bankers. The conniving international bankers were not about to lend the floundering nation any money without some serious stipulations. So, they devised a way of taking back control of the United States, and thus, the Act of 1871 was passed. With no constitutional authority to do so, Congress created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia. With the passage of the Act of 1871 a city-state, a state within a state called the District of Columbia, located on 10 square miles of land in the heart of Washington, was formed with its own flag and its own independent constitution, the United States' secret second constitution. The flag of Washington's District of Columbia has 3 red stars, each symbolizing a city-state within the 3-city empire. The 3-city empire consists of Washington, D.C., London, and Vatican City. London is the corporate center of the 3 city-states, and controls the world economically. Washington's District of Columbia city-state is in charge of the military, and the Vatican controls it all under the guise of spiritual guidance.
An RT America host live on air, claiming she could not be a part of a network that, quote,
and that is why personally I cannot be part of a network funded by the Russian government that whitewashes the actions of Putin. I'm proud to be an American and believe in disseminating the truth, and that is why, after this newscast, I'm resigning.
She then immediately went on a tour of all 3 mainstream corporate outlets and anyone who would listen, auditioning for a role on a news show where she could whitewash the blowback-inducing homicidal bull in a cultural, religious, and geopolitical china shop of U.S. foreign policy that I like to call Manifest Destiny's Child. But before you jump on the Chris Hayes bandwagon and celebrate Wahl's actions as, quote, incredibly badass, take a moment and read the excellent follow-up report from Max Blumenthal and Rainier Kalek, which outlines how Wahl's attempt at a network-esque type of a moment was coordinated by the neoconservative think tank Foreign Policy Initiative. Blumenthal and Kalek report, quote, behind the coverage of Wahl's dramatic protest, a cadre of neoconservatives was celebrating a public relations coup. Desperate to revive the Cold War, head off further cuts to the defense budget, and restore the legitimacy lost in the ruins of Iraq, the tight-knit group of neoconservative writers and stewards had opened up a new PR front through Wahl's resignation, and they succeeded with no shortage of help from an ossified media establishment struggling to maintain credibility in an increasingly anarchic online news environment. With isolated skeptics branded as useful idiots for Putin, the scene had been kept clean of neoconservative fingerprints, obscuring their interest in Wahl's resignation and the broader push to deepen tensions with Russia. Despite the depth of this report by Blumenthal and Kalek, the piece that lays bare the machinations of, among other things, the very sadistic and apocalyptic flirtations of the military-industrial complex married to a Straussian noble lie wherein the real-life Dr. Strangeloves who launched a global war on terror, correction, global war on brown people in lands that have not declared war on us and pose no threat to us, correction, global war on everything, everywhere, including U.S. citizens, because in the USA, journalism is the new terrorism. This charming Peace Prize winner maintains a kill list and claims more autonomy in using it than a mafia don. Despite all this, most people here in the United States can be split into two camps. In the majority camp, you have people who think that the United States' support for Ukraine and saber-rattling with Russia is just another chapter, another example in the storybook tale of the United States as a superpower spreading good, protecting freedom lovers the world over from tyrants and monsters like Putin. And in the minority camp, you have people who think that Ukraine is a 12 seed in the eastern bracket of their March Madness office pool. And an even smaller group among them would be the viewers of this program who recognize that while Putin may not be the hero in this story, that this story is in fact a bit more nuanced than the plot of a fairy tale. However, for those of us able to look at the world without the tint of nationalistic goggles the mainstream corporate media Liz Wahl so desperately wants a job working for demands that we wear, one thing is crystal clear. The world still has two major nuclear powers, the United States and Russia. For decades now, it's been the United States who has been the aggressor in this relationship. As Diana Johnstone, writing at Counterpunch, puts it, quote, "Is Russia urging Quebec to secede from Canada so the province can join a military alliance led by Moscow? Evidently not. That would be comparable and yet mild compared to the recent U.S. gambit led by Victoria Nuland, aimed at bringing the Ukraine into the Western orbit. Russia professes no hostile ideology and only seeks normal relations with the West. What more can it do? It's up to Americans to come to their senses. Does the United States want war with Russia? It seems the powers that be would prefer complete subservience to war, but judging by our actions, decades in the making, the next front of our perpetual war never seems an if, but a when. I'm Dennis Traynor Jr. This has been the Resistance Report on Acronym TV. What do you stand for?